Hi, this is Joe Specia, Superintendent of the Wickliffe Schools, with another edition of our podcast about the bond issue, Issue 3, dedicated to the building or rebuilding of the entire Wickliffe City School District campus. With me today is A.J. Hyland, who is the past president and CEO of Hyland Software, who's going to talk to us today about the value and importance of facilities in the way of productivity, building a learning organization and a culture. But before we begin that, AJ, if you talk about your history, the history of Hyland Software, and then we can talk about facilities. So welcome and thanks for joining us.
Good, thanks for having me. Appreciate being here. Hyland Software started in 1991. My oldest brother, Packy Hyland, started the company along with my dad. My other brother, Chris, came on board, and then a gentleman named Miguel Zubizarreta came on board, and they were sort of the first four horsemen of the organization early on. I happened to be the number 6 employee of the company, and I started back in 1993. And then we added others as well and kept on growing. We got our start primarily in the banking and finance industry. And so we sold solutions to banks to deal with their paper problems and the volume of paper that they printed and the routing of paper through an organization, and we created solutions to that. We worked through a series of resellers, so we found partners to sell our product throughout the country, and that went very, very well. We had some very unique aspects of the products. We were energetic and excited about that. We found a bunch of partners to help us sell, and then as we grew, we started to configure and develop the product in order to meet the demands of other very paper-intensive businesses, from healthcare, higher education, insurance, manufacturing, all these places that had a ton of paperwork that had to be either stored or routed through a process to make their business more efficient. And we developed a huge suite of products to do that. From my personal perspective, I started in 1993. I was in quality assurance, so I tested software day in and day out, and then moved into the sales aspect of things in 1997. My brother wanted me to become president of the organization and kind of deal with the day-to-day operational stuff, so he was going to focus more on the product and other things. And then in 2001, he retired after 10 years of being there and asked me to take over as CEO, and I was happy to do that. And I was CEO from 2001 to 2013 when I stepped back and retired as well. And now a gentleman named Bill Premer is the CEO of Hyland Software. So in terms of trajectory, just to give when I took over as president, we were about 70 people. I took over as CEO, we were about 140, 150 people. When I left as CEO, we were over 1,500 people, and now we're over about 3,500 people worldwide. So
you have 3,500 employees.
Yeah.
In states all over the country and
international,
throughout the world.
Yes.
So you've had the opportunity to be involved in building and renovating and creating new facilities. So when you think through that process, how do you think through the process of creating a facility that's going to meet the, like we talked about, the learning needs of the organization, the culture of the organization, and how does a facility align itself with the productivity of the organization?
It's a great question. I credit a lot to my brother as well, who founded the company. When we got spaces early on, it was more about where was the space, was it convenient for us as a company, as well as was the size we needed at the time. When we started to get when we got a little bit bigger, we needed obviously larger facilities. But when we go into these, we'd buy buildings that we wanted to go into, and often we would just sort of gut them and rebuild them in a way that would meet our needs. From a culture perspective, I think it's important to probably talk about the culture first, so you kind of understand what we were about. Highly collaborative organization. We needed lots of communication between all the different groups within the company, even intra-group. Whether it's the development group or the quality assurance group, you had to have a lot of communication back and forth. You had to be able to see people, see what they were doing. We are a company that values transparency. So, all the employees know what's going on financially in the company. We would hold meetings to talk about our financials every quarter. And that's sort of one level of transparency, but also, our offices were glass, people could see in and out of them. We're all working together. Certainly you need some privacy for conversations in offices, but it was one of those things where you could still see what was going on. I could see, in my office as CEO, I could see everybody in the company. They could see me, just sort of this collaborative, unitive, trying to give everybody sunlight that they can see, all this type of stuff. So just a way to from a culture perspective, how is our space helping with all the things we're trying to do from a culture perspective. And then obviously, treating our employees like family. We try to make sure that it's a place that has some fun and some perks and some things that people can do to either blow off steam and or have some conveniences from a space perspective that would help them in their lives and make them more productive. And I think we were able to do that. But generally, what we would have to do is get a building, sort of knock down all these high walls, take down tons of all the high cubicles, and then sort of reconfigure it with the way that we wanted to structure that.
So you create open space so that your folks can collaborate.
Correct.
And that's critical, you think?
I do. I really do. I think it's very important to be able to see other people, all the nonverbal cues, all the messages of, sort of the silent messages of belonging and connection that you can create. I think create bonds between people, which can then obviously help in conversations and create bridges between people that helps in problem resolution and innovation and everything that we were trying to do as a company. Having everyone more connected, able to see what everyone else is doing, I think really lent itself to us growing quickly and us being able to maintain our culture as we grew by using the space that we had.
And you also mentioned the importance of having some recreational or fun time. And you built facilities with that in mind as well?
We did, yeah. I mean, just, spaces, whether they're break area or, break rooms or break areas to have fun. We have places that have, sort of like pool tables or ping pong tables, just a little way to blow off steam, or video games now. And that's more the thing now. Places to do that. Also places to eat, and sort of break bread with your fellow employees, as it were, and creating a space there that was a great gathering space. But also making sure that we had spaces that were sort of wide open, so we could have big company meetings, where everyone could kind of get involved and be there at the same time and hear the same message. We created something called the Monday morning meeting, which was every single Monday we would meet as an organization. They still do, talk about either financial performance, talk about new customers, talk about, an employee who's living up to the core values, those type of things, or some aspect of the business that everyone needs to hear. And that's been running for over 20 years, and you have to have the space in order to make that happen. Now that we're bigger, obviously, we have to video broadcasts around the world and do other things, but it was important for us to have a space that met the needs for what we were trying to accomplish. And all of it came back to, are we working better together and being more innovative and more communicative and more collaborative because the environment in which we are in and sitting in. Now, there are some drawbacks at times. People would say, hey, this is too loud, this is too like that. But everyone learned to work around it. And we always felt that the benefit far, far outweighed any of the thoughts about, hey, this could be something that isn't as efficient. And we just felt the connections between the employees and the ability to see who's at their desk and be able to make communication, be able to solve a problem quicker for a customer. All of that played out and really helped us grow.
How does the facility, and I'm sure the entire company thinks about this, how does the facility contribute to your growth as a learning organization? Just the idea of people working together, that collaboration, or is there more to it?
Well, I think when you have a structure that's, it's kind of funny, when you have a structure that's walled off between groups, I think that just sends a message that we're over here and you're over there, and, we don't, for us to work together, we have to work around something to get there. When it's a more open environment, it sends a positive message like we're all in this together. And I think when you send that attitude, it creates a family environment. It creates the ability to see, as I said, to see who's there and to know, like, okay, it's okay, and we're sending a message. It's okay for us to talk to each other. It's okay for us to collaborate. And I really think that helped from a productivity perspective. And and particularly in the development side of the house, I think it helped from an innovation perspective. And the reason is that if you have somebody come over and they have a problem or they're working on something cool, and somebody in this cubicle over here can overhear what's going on, they might have valuable information about how to make that better, about how to make it more efficient, about pitfalls that they've learned in the past that they can contribute to that conversation. And if you're a walled off group, you won't hear those things, and you miss opportunities for that type of collaboration and innovation.
I really like that thinking, the idea of you don't want to miss opportunities, and when you have people around you, that contributes to growth and productivity. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
No worries.
So if you were building a school,
Yeah.
all right, and you had that opportunity, what would be, let's say, the 3 or 4 critical elements of that facility that you'd want to make sure that those young people have so that those future employees, okay, can walk into your company with some skills that become really important to their success?
Excellent question. And it would clearly be, and I've actually been in conversations with schools about reconfiguring spaces and stuff like that before, and some boards I've been on and everything else. It is, I think it's critical that these young adults have spaces where they're sort of forced to collaborate and communicate with each other. Very rarely are you successful in anything in life by yourself. I mean, you need a team to do almost anything. Like, my brother and Miguel, for as brilliant as they are, they needed a team around them to take their great ideas and bring them to market. And if you don't know how to collaborate and you don't know how to communicate each other, and we know, I mean, I don't want to get into this necessarily, but we know kids have a problem right now just on their phones, not talking, just not communicating with each other. You have to have a space that quote unquote forces them or certainly paves the road for them to communicate with others, to collaborate on projects, to whether it's makerspace or an open area. From a classroom perspective, is everything just traditional and where you're looking at the back of someone's head the whole time, or are you around a table like it's going to be in the business world, trying to come up with solutions, trying to solve problems? Because pretty much that's what a lot of this is. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you're going to work for a Fortune 500 company, within 1 week of you being on the job, there's going to be tons of problems to solve, and you have to figure out how to communicate and talk to other people about that.
That's a critical piece of that facility.
Yeah. So and then also I think, and I don't know how this works in school. Obviously, you have to have the ability for the teachers to communicate clearly with their kids without disruption. But there's some sort of, I think there's a cool transparency possibility, with maybe a little bit more glass in classrooms, a little more sunlight, just kind of create a more open and exciting feel to a school building. And so everyone can kind of see what everybody's doing, and from a safety perspective, it's probably good as well. So I think that could play into it well. I don't know how that, you might know better than I, how that would work with your school district, but I do think that there's something to be said about everyone seeing a little bit more of each other in these environments. I think that would be a positive thing.
Okay, so we're going to move right near the end of our broadcast right now. We're going to move a little bit from the idea of facilities and how facilities help students learn and become productive and so forth, and build that culture, to the idea of development of your workforce. So when you're looking for employees going forward, so the message we're going to send right now are to the young people out there, and they may be Wickliffe students, we certainly hope they are, but students all over the place. What are the key characteristics you're looking for in an employee? And certainly there are certain technical competencies.
Yes.
But beyond those, what are those key components in the world of workforce development that we need to be thinking about for our kids?
Well, I mean, attitude is quite possibly the number one thing that we looked for when we hired employees. You can find somebody there's a lot of intelligent people on the planet, so you can find intelligent people, you can find, people who have the technical skills, but can you have people that have the attitude to succeed, and the attitude to work collaboratively with others? So I would suggest that what you're talking about is building an environment that generates an attitude of collaboration and generates an attitude of working together. Because if you are a individual that prefers to not communicate with others, or to be a lone wolf in situations, or whatever it might be when you work, that might not work in certain businesses, certainly not in ours. We need people to work together. We need people that are positive. So that's all important. Clearly, as I said multiple times, you need to have people that are problem solvers. People who look at a problem as an opportunity, who can take their skill and knowledge and quickly figure out and get down to the root of what's actually happening in a customer situation. In the technology field, that can, you have so many aspects to all this, lots of different hardware, lots of different software, lots of different communication devices, different operating systems. So you've got to be very good at narrowing down variables and getting to the constants and figuring out what's actually going on. So when we look for people, the number one thing, and we had an extensive interview process, that required people to submit stuff over the web. They would meet with HR, they would meet with potential colleagues, they would meet with managers, and then once you got into the company, you got hired, there was another 6 to 8 weeks of actual training where you could really test the mettle of who you were hiring, and that do they have the attitude and the learning, the desire to continue to learn would be yet another thing. Do they have that desire? Because when you start over in a new company, you got to be able to get on board with, this is new information, and are you going to jump into that with a positive attitude, a learning, a desire to learn, and know your product and know your markets and know your customers well enough that you can succeed. So always having this, I want to continue to learn attitude, I think is very, very important from that perspective. And once again, I think the architecture can really help that.
And we appreciate that, and that's one of our biggest goals, is to create a building and a facility that contributes to the success of our students into the future.
Yeah.
So with that, first of all, on behalf of the Wickliffe Schools, thank you very much for spending time with us, and on behalf of the bond issue committee as well. We appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our podcast for today. What we want to remind you of is that the Wickliffe City School District does have a bond issue up on the ballot for November the 5th, and we urge you to get out and vote for issue 3. Thank you and have a nice day.